What is happening in the country? Okay, well, we're about to get a full-on breakdown from BEN MEISELAS. Incredible when it comes to covering politics and really getting inside the details of what is happening. Co-founder of the Midas Touch network. Incredible coverage, giving you the real, the raw, the honest when it comes to politics. No sugarcoating. We're trying to get straight to it. And before we start, because we know Ben won't say this, hold up. Katrina be the producer. Drum roll, please. Thank you very much. Good drums,
I'm spitting all over this mic, by the way.
But we have to, because congratulations to Midas Touch, incredible podcast, for being #1 podcast in the US. Hello. Woo. And 2, when it comes to overall podcast, only second to Mel Robbins. And this is huge news. Okay. So the fact that they were #1 in the news category, you guys, this is groundbreaking. And maybe it's a little bit more personal for me because we have known Ben for years. Okay. And so he started this, his first baby, sorry, real baby, but first baby, Midas Touch podcast, started from nothing, and to see where it's at today, #1 news podcast in the country. Are you kidding me? Huh? Beating out everybody out here? Huh? Okay, only second.
Wait, hold on. You gotta put her on your ad libs.
Only second to Mel Robbins when it comes to overall podcast. I love Mel Robbins, by the way.
Yes,
I just got her book. I paid my money to get it, but whatever. The point is, I'm so proud of you, Ben. I'm so proud of your brothers who started this from nothing. And here we are. I mean, I'm not trying to compare you to anybody else, but it is a big deal. You did beat Joe Rogan. Okay. When it comes to the podcast game, he runs it. You beat him. What is the secret sauce, Ben?
It's you, it's Katrina, it's Colin. You know, that's where I started. Yes. I actually, if you're really going back to the first baby, although I'm not calling you or Colin babies, it was what we did on the ground together. Right. And, you know, and that was inspiring to me. And then it became kind of clear to me that, don't get me wrong, I liked being a lawyer, but I think the advocacy over the being in court every day. And so this allows that advocacy to take a public form and really, you know, I think we've been leading the charge in independent media at a time when now it almost seems cliche that everybody, independent media, but we've been doing independent media now on a shoestring budget for a number of years. Mm-hmm. And we've been kind of leading the charge. So it's great to see that the people are watching this and, you know, and appreciating the work and effort and the message, which is, you know, here's your democracy if you choose to keep it, but it could be lost very quickly.
You have been warning us for a long time what would happen if Donald Trump got elected. We haven't spoke since the inauguration. So where are we now, Ben? Especially, I want to start off with the push that I feel from Donald Trump and Elon Musk when it comes to federal spending. Seems like they're very focused on slashing that budget down. I did see AOC sharing some insight that this all might have something to do with the 2017 tax cut coming due in 2025. What is the real, Ben? Why is there a push, and is there any truth to what AOC said?
I mean, look, in theory, the idea of balancing budgets and being fiscally responsible, like that's a good thing. But that's not what's happening here. I mean, Trump gave a speech earlier in the day or yesterday talking about we need to build $100 million ballroom in the White House. And he talks about we need to invade Gaza and Greenland, and we need to invade Canada and Mexico. So look, they don't want to slash the budget. Donald Trump, the last time around, raised the debt or increased our debt by $7-8 trillion with tax cuts they can't pay for. What they want to do, in my opinion, is they want to destroy the government, create serious hardship, impose Donald Trump as a dictator, create an authoritarian regime, and in our suffering, when we're knocked down, when we're rubble, we'll beg for peanuts, and America will look like the countries that they admire, like Russia, where the poverty rate's very high, Argentina, where the poverty rate's about 50%, El Salvador, these are the people who they like, Hungary, with very high poverty rates. So look, the framing of slashing is I think incorrect. What they want to do, I think we have to use, the right terms is, they want to hoist on us a dictatorship, and they've done, I don't believe we live in a democracy right now in our country, and I believe we live in an authoritarian nation right now where Donald Trump and Elon Musk get to do whatever they want without oversight from any of the other branches because the Republicans control all branches. I mean, I think we have to be real with where we're at. And so, that's where we are now. People didn't take the warning, whether you are a Venezuelan in South Florida, who you've now lost your TPS status, and Trump sending you back to Maduro to get killed and tortured, while you were up there cheering Donald Trump on and saying Venezuelans for Trump. You were a Muslim for Trump or Palestinian for Trump and said they're really the same. I mean, former Vice President Harris wanted a two-state solution, and former President Biden sanctioned Israeli settlers for preventing aid to Gaza. Donald Trump's talking about hotels and leveling it. I mean, whether you're a worker who voted for Donald Trump, the National Labor Relations Board, bye-bye, you don't have it anymore. So good luck filing a grievance anywhere. That's gone. So, this is who 49% of the voters, 49% of voters picked this. And now the Republicans talk about hardship, pain, suffering, so that we can be rebuilt in the image of Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
So Donald Trump campaigned on lowering grocery prices down. And, a lot of his followers and supporters, that's what they, I guess, hung on to, right? They were adamant that Trump was going to improve the cost of living in general. What is actually happening? Can you really tell us the truth?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's what I think his supporters wanted the cruelty. They just thought it wasn't going to happen to them. I think the media took his cruelty and promoted him as the lower price guy. But if you watched his campaign, it was evil. They didn't sing the anthem. They sang the January 6th choir song with the insurrectionists who tried to kill cops. That's what they replaced the anthem with. But the media didn't report that. And Mr. Anthem, Donald Trump, he replaced our anthem with the J6 choir song. The Republican National Convention, the people were holding mass deportation signs, including Latinos for Trump, Venezuelans for Trump, with signs, deport them now. And I would say, he's talking about you. Like, what world are you living in? Cubans for Trump, Venezuelans for Trump, Puerto Ricans for he doesn't like you. The workers for unions for Trump. So I think everybody in their own mind fantasized about the cruelty they would inflict on people. They thought this was funny in a game. They thought Kamala Harris is a black woman, mixed Indian and black. And I think we should be real and what happened, right? And they picked the white fraud guy, who was going to be cruel to people over relative stability that we had in a Biden administration, a 60% increase in our stock market from when Biden started, inflation going down, and people called them sleepy. And so, this is what the country picked. And here it is. And, the oligarchs are in control. I see people fighting back. I'm starting to see the protests emerge in different cities across the country, which is good. Democrats were sleeping the first 2 weeks, but they seem to now be fighting and they don't control any government. They can't do hearings. They can't issue subpoenas. Be like, what are they doing? Well, they tried to issue a subpoena on Musk. The Republicans cut off debate, wouldn't even allow a debate on why Elon Musk should be subpoenaed. So Democrats have zero power because people voted for Republicans. So you have MAGA, 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 and you have a MAGA country now, and this is what it is: 3 plane incidents, 1 horrific crash in a matter of weeks. U.S. aid gutted, Labor Department gutted. All these agencies are going to be gutted, and for the party that was law and order, FBI agents fired who deal with counterterrorism and a bunch of stuff. CIA getting buyouts. The only person who's laughing and finds this funny is Vladimir Putin. It's like the biggest gift for him in the world. In 3 weeks, America's laughed at in the world. We've never been weaker. The world thinks we're crazy. Donald Trump threatens tariffs on this country, that country, the other country. And then the day of the tariffs, he goes, ooh, let me make a deal. Then he makes a fake deal. I'll give you an example. Claudia Sheinbaum in Mexico. Donald Trump threatens Mexico with all these horrible things, fentanyl, da, da, da. Donald Trump's like, I did a great deal. Okay, well, what's the deal? 10,000 troops at the border. Okay, there's already 15,000 troops, idiot. So now it's 5,000 less troops that are already at the border. You negotiated less troops at the border. Oh, look at the great deal I made. Same thing with Canada. Look what I did, $1.3 billion border deal. Well, that deal was in effect with Biden. Well, I did it. Okay, well, you didn't do a deal. He goes and does these fake deals. So he uses Putin's rhetoric, but then he uses Trump's weak it's the worst of everything. And then all these other countries now hate us, and they also look at him like he's pathetic. So maybe on the Fox echo chamber bubble, this is like, oh, we're tough, like G.I. Joe, but it's ridiculous. We look stupid.
What executive orders should we be concerned about?
Every one of them. They're all stupid. Every one of them.
I mean, right now, Ben, when you look at the landscape and what he's done since he's been inaugurated, what are some clear red flags that you want people to be extremely mindful of and that we should pay attention to?
I'll boil it down this. You're not safe in America right now. Period. You're not safe in your country right now. You feel safe going on an airplane right now when they fired the FAA agents. You feel safe eating fruit and vegetables when the people who oversee the safety are not there anymore. You feel safe when they've released January 6th insurrectionists, and people who engaged in horrific crimes, and some of them started more criming, and you put those people back on the street. Do you feel safe? Trump said he was going to be a dictator on day one, and that his goal was retribution. He's doing dictator on one, retribution. We could talk about all of the executive orders, but he's not following the law. The law is that he faithfully executes the laws. Congress passes it, he executes laws. You don't get to say government stop funding things, this agency stop doing things. They do what the law requires them to do. Trump's view is no. I'm not doing that. I do what Trump wants to do or what Elon Musk wants to do. And, we can get into the weeds of this order, that order, but when I talk about this on my show, I don't. I try to keep it simple. I make it about safety. There hasn't been a plane crash like this since 2008 or 2009.
Scary.
Now there's one where a plane hits a Black Hawk helicopter in Washington, D.C. airspace, and Trump goes and blames it on DEI and somehow blames lesbians and black people and says that that's the reason that there's a plane crash. This stuff is racist. It's offensive. It's stupid, and it's dangerous. And so I think you're less safe. And then also what happened with to your point, what happened with what the media was telling us, groceries, egg prices, this, that. Prices are going up. So prices are higher. It's less affordable to buy a home right now. There's no peace in Ukraine in 24 hours. So we're just dealing with a con artist, authoritarian that goes around and says crazy stuff all day. And it's like, oh, now I'm gonna say invade Gaza and occupy Gaza and all of a sudden, and trust me, my friends in the Middle East, they're gonna love it. They had Egypt, Jordan. Okay, their response is backward, no. And if you do that, you've now created World War III in the Middle East. So these things, they're not thoughtful. He goes up and he views this as like a reality TV show that we're all, non-consensual individuals who are now in his stupid reality show. He's got the guy running the transportation department from the Real World Road Rules, challenge is like, Sean Duffy, the guy running around with like hairy nipples getting licked on Real World Road Rule challenge crap. You've got Sean Duffy, the Fox News host, now has our nuclear arsenal. I mean, we should boil it down in that language. We're not okay with this. People should not be okay with this. This is a combination of ignorant, stupid, dangerous. It's idiocracy on steroids, and people should be generally, terrified right now. And I'm not trying to say that to scare them, but this isn't normal. Don't go about your day and be, okay, it is what it is. Nah, we're living in an authoritarian regime right now with things that are happening every day that make us look more and more like, frankly, a stupider, more idiotic version of authoritarian regimes that our country used to frown upon.
that was a lot. So is there any relief in sight? Like, what should we be doing? Accepting that this is our fate for the next 4 years? Like, what should we be doing?
I think you have to start with the premise that you're not going to normalize. I mean, people ask me every day, what's the step that I can do?
Right.
And, without necessarily protesting you do what makes you feel safe and comfortable. But the most important thing I think you can do is when you speak with, draw boundaries around yourself about what you're okay with and you're not okay with in just your daily interactions. And associate yourself with people or don't associate yourself with people who I think are reflective of what's going on right now. This attack on DEI and all this stuff, if people are with that, they're not your friends. Like if they're blaming the plane crash over DC on Black and lesbian people, those are not cool people to hang out with. And I think we, the people, have to make tough decisions, who we surround ourselves with, what's okay. And we have to, the same way Colin took a knee and said, I'm not okay with this. We all have to, in our own ways, make those choices right now and say, I'm good with this. I'm not good with this. Small acts in our own way of resistance to this in the aggregate makes a huge difference. And I'm not saying we have to take a knee. I'm saying, though, we can say, no, I'm not good with that. I'm not okay with that. Stop saying that. This is my rights. This is my family. I know people who are being impacted. And I think just even doing that in your own life has a ripple effect. And that's what you can control every day. And not to, when Trump does this stuff, it's not funny. And we have to not talk about it like, oh, he's crazy. Enough of just, this is affecting communities now. And if you're okay with seeing your communities rot, then then say it and stop being a coward. That's like, we're at that, I think, inflection point where courage is needed. And I think, it's appropriate we're all talking about it because, this interview goes full circle. Colin showed an example of what you can do and how you can do it. And if you believe for nothing, you fall for everything. Or as Colin's, had basically put out there, you need to, believe in something, and be willing to sacrifice everything. So that's where we're at.
Should people go and complain to local Congress people or just, I've heard that kind of discussion. If you're not okay with something, you should make it into a big deal. You should go and complain to people who are in office that we have elected locally, because I guess they're going to get the complaints directly. I mean, because sometimes, to be honest, Ben, listening to your podcast gives us hope and direction. But I think sometimes it's like, well, what else can we do? That's something that we can feel like it's a little bit tangible. Would you encourage people to contact, their local, whoever it is that's in office?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't hurt to call your local representative. I mean, they'll take a list of all of the phone calls. And they'll say, okay, we've got a lot of phone calls that say that they don't like Elon Musk going in to do this, or we've got a lot of phone calls that say this or that. So it's helpful, but to me, I truly think that, I think there will be a time where people will need to protest and have their voices heard. I do. Peacefully protest. That time will come. We're seeing it happen already. in lots of cities. Corporate media isn't reporting on it, but it's happening.
I was going to ask, are they suppressing that? Because I've heard that there are protests happening, not just in the country, but around the world in support of democracy and people not wanting to see Trump in office and, you know, all of his policies that he's trying to get through. Are those protests real? And I'm asking, as someone who's in the media, Ben, I can't tell what's real and fake anymore because there's that much out there.
Well, I can speak for America. You know, I mean, look, there's clearly a lot of protests against American foreign policy abroad. Like I've seen them in Panama and elsewhere, you know, and it's sad to see these images of people just so despising us. It's sad for me to watch as an American. I know here there's protests, you know, there was called the 50-51 protest, 50 protests, 50 states, one day. And we saw those across the country over the past week, everywhere from, you know, Wyoming to Washington State, whether you were in Michigan, Virginia. I mean, I saw them everywhere, Los Angeles. And some are against the threats to democracy. Some are against ICE. Look, I don't know if it is, you know, the media intentionally suppressing it. But if you think about it, our media is totally broken. So corporate media, cable, they have 30 minutes of time. And they're not they're not covering it, whether that's intentional because ABC settled with Donald Trump and wrote a $15 million check and the FCC's going after CBS or whatever. I mean, or they're worried about mergers. I don't know one way or the other. You know, I can't speak about it because I'm not, but I know that these protests are happening in America and local media, they devote 30 seconds to a story. So you may see, and there was a protest, but in the aggregate, there's a lot of already in such a short period of time. This is supposed to be the goodwill period of a presidency. This is when people are supposed to have elected you. They like you because you just won. The country tries to rally around. Biden's approval rating around this time was like 67%. Trump's is like 40, 39, you know, depending on which poll. People are angry right now. People have been duped. I still think there's a core MAGA base that likes this, that they cheer on this. They're into this is what they wanted. They didn't care about lower prices. They wanted to see people suffer, and they're seeing it, and they're on the in crowd. So they like this. But I think by and large, you're in a red state. If you're a Republican and the Department of Education gets cut, your school's not going to get funded. I mean, if you rely on social services and food stamps and things like that, which red states do more than blue states, you're screwed.
Oh.
You're gonna be in a lot of trouble. So it's not like you know, blue states by and large fund the government. The red states are recipients, and not all states, but by and large, the blue states make the most money. The red states don't, and they are in debt, and they're getting funded by blue states. So red states are going to get hit even harder. And so the question is, and here's Donald Trump's calculation: Trump's got to get us on all the culture war stuff. Sign the executive order banning 9 transgender athletes from NCAA. I mean, great work, Donald. You've bullied 9 transgender people, and you made a culture war issue for the day. But like, we can't get distracted on that. And we have to be there for marginalized communities. Let me be clear. But we also have to recognize that that's part of the divide and conquer strategy to screw us. So we focus on that while all of his promises are broken.
Is he going to get rid of the Constitution?
I mean, put it this way, he's broke contracts his whole life. So the Constitution's a piece of paper, and the Constitution requires there be 3 co-equal branches of government: Supreme Court, the executive branch, and Congress. They're supposed to be co-equal and defend their turf.
Right.
That's not happening when you have Republicans in the Senate and the House of Representatives. They control that, and they are doing whatever he wants. That no longer looks like a republic. It looks like Rome when there were emperors, and the emperor would just tell the Senate what they'd want, and it would be rubber stamped. Sad to see this in the country, but this is what it is. And so my view is when Trump's at the Super Bowl, when Trump's at these places, like we as the people can't normalize this stuff. We can't act like we're in normal times right now because we're not. That said, I'll leave us with this. I see hope. I still see signs of hope. This isn't just a dread. Oh my God, we're all screwed. The threat is real, but we should be able to see it. And to me, I like to see things. It's sometimes easier when you see it to go, oh, I get it. I see what you're trying to do. And now that we know it, we could at least be like, okay, they are doing Project 2025. They are doing those things. This is going to impact me and my friends and my community. So I got to do something about it quickly. And that's where we're at now.
Ben, thank you so much for filling us in. I know your time is limited. I know you have to run and do the podcast. You are in high demand right now because we need clarity and we need the truth. Please, everybody, tap into Midas Touch Podcast. You actually don't need me to say that. Clearly, the numbers are speaking for itself. Thank you for being a trusted voice and a trusted platform during a time where we really honestly can't trust platforms because we don't know their agenda. We don't know what's going on. Midas Touch Podcast, listen to it. You're going to get the real. It is truly independent media, which I love. And this started a long time ago. And I'm happy that people are learning about it now, but it's been going on. And really, really quick, sorry, because I just have to say this. Midas Touch, Ben, you sat down with former President Biden. What? Okay, just tell us one thing. Just tell us anything. Was it like strange in the room? Was there I don't know, security all around you? Did they go through your stuff? Come on. We need to know
There's
something.
definitely a lot of security. There's a whole process.
Yeah.
Before you can get in there, there's multiple checkpoints before you can get in there. We did it in the Roosevelt Room of the White House, which is in the West Wing, literally right by the Oval Office. And like the Oval Office is maybe 10 feet from the Roosevelt Room. And, for me, what that interview was about, and I think there was really no one else who did a legacy interview like that, like other than me. Lawrence O'Donnell did one, but I think ours was the definitive half-hour one. And I knew when I was doing it, unfortunately, I thought we would be where we were today. And so when I was doing the interview, what I was trying to do was to create a historical record for future generations about what a decent human being was like. And I actually had in mind that the interview, to me, I didn't care so much about how it was. It was favorably received. But to me, I was less interested in that. And I was more interested in creating a historical record of what a normal democracy should look like so that people can go back to it or future generations can look at it and go, okay, that's what we actually had a great thing. And we called this guy sleepy. We were ageist. We beat down on a good man who really just woke up every day and tried to do well for the country, and got us out of COVID. And we really, and I'm a big former President Biden fan because to me, I think leadership is soft spoken, but you execute at the right times. People obviously disagree with it, but I think that, future generations will look specifically to that interview and go, we as a nation really decided to harm ourselves against all logic.
Well, you asked hard questions too. And I say that because I also watch just independent, just political analysts in general, whether they're just streaming or not. It was surprisingly, because it could be, people aren't very impressed, right? For the most part, it could be very critical. You were very well received, Ben. I don't know if I ever told you, there was other, just things I saw, and I was really proud of you. And I think that's important because I don't think other outlets, especially, outlets that lean more left or whatever, I think sometimes they get scared to ask the hard questions. And you did. Now, whether we like the answers or not, you still did what you were supposed to do in there, because that is what Midas Touch does. Listen to Midas Touch Podcast. Thank you for keeping us covered with knowledge. And like, how often are you going live, or just so that people know what the platform is doing all day, every day, and that people feel like they have a safe place to go listen to real information?
About 12 videos a day, 12 videos a day, and then about 2 to 3 lives every day.
Okay, you're booked and busy. I get it. Okay, Ben, thank you so much. We will be checking back in with you. Hopefully there's still a country and a place that we can talk. You're not scared at all that Trump and an administration is going to try to come after you? Because I heard that, there are talks about them going after people who speak out against them in the media. Any worries?
Zero, because look, I'm not trying to end this on a morbid note, but you anybody who's afraid, you die once, and you could either live your life and constantly humiliate yourself and degrade yourself and die 1,000 cuts until your ultimate death. It's going to hit us all one day. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. So I don't understand how people could be so cowardly and not simply say how they feel and live a degraded, humiliated existence every single day. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. There's nothing to be afraid about. What the worst he's going to do to me is going to happen to me or anybody anytime in the future. So as I see it, I'm going to use the short time that I have, regardless. Come after me, don't come. It is what it is. I'm going to tell the truth, and that's going to be how I spend the remainder of my years. That's and right. People can choose to spend the remainder of their years, kissing an orange turd's ass and helping a dictator, or they could stand up for themselves. It's the ball's in your court. I mean, live your life how you want to live it, and this is how I'm choosing to live it, and there's no fear at all.
We'll be tuning in. Midas Touch Podcast. Please be part of the Midas Touch community. You have done such a great job. Please give your brothers a big hug from all of us. I'm so proud of you on just so many levels. Thank you, Ben. We'll have you on soon enough to keep us updated. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.